Hey everybody, we are on day 256 in our Bible reading plan, Isaiah 4 through 6 and Psalm 43. Isaiah 4 through 6, you're going to recognize some of the things that we're going to talk about, I hope, if you've ever read Isaiah before. If not, I think you're going to enjoy today's reading. We left off yesterday, remember Isaiah speaking to a pre-exile society who is going to be seeing God's judgment on them. And chapter 3 was talking about the judgment that was meant to purify them. And then we lead into chapter 4, I'm segueing because it really talks about Jesus, and so it points to the Lord. There's reference to the cloud by day and the smoke by night, which is something that the people of Israel understood an imagery of, but really talks about the day of Zion and how Jesus would come, and he is the only answer to the judgment that we all deserve. And chapter 5, and we're in the minor prophets, we're going to read a lot of this tone and this language, which I think will encourage you, but also it's going to make us sad, maybe draw us to the Lord, I hope, because some of this language, more than anything, helps you to understand the heart of God, which is a heart that wants intimacy with us and a deep relationship. So let me just, by the way, it reminded me a little bit of Song of Solomon, having just read it and done this book with you. I think you'll see some of the same intonation where God says to the people of Israel, let me sing for my beloved my love song concerning his vineyard. My beloved had a vineyard on a very fertile hill. Doesn't that ring a bell? And then he talks about how I looked for it to yield grapes. Why did it yield wild grapes? And so the Lord is talking about how he loved his people and they didn't deliver in essence, and they couldn't, understandable, but he still was trying to call them to himself, and instead judgment. And so the rest of chapter 5 is really a commentary on the woe that would come to the wicked. And then we lead to chapter 6, which is going to tie into our big idea. Chapter 6 is sort of one of the more famous chapters in the book of Isaiah, and this is the year that King Uzziah dies, and Isaiah the prophet gets a vision of God. And so many of us long for a vision of God, and we think, man, if I could only hear God or see God. And little do we understand how awesome that would be. Awesome to the degree that we would fall on our face without the ability to say another word. And so he says, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne high and lifted up. And you say, what happened when he saw that? Well, he goes on and describes what he saw. The train of his robe filled the temple. Think about the image. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet. With 2 he flew, and one called to another, holy, holy, holy. Of all the things that Isaiah could have described the Lord, he didn't say good, good, good. He didn't say graceful, graceful, graceful. Although God is all these things, he says holy, holy, holy. It is the one characteristic of God that we tend to minimize and forget about, and think that it's okay, we can dwell in sin, and that God will be okay with it. And Isaiah is so moved by this vision of God, and his response is, woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. And it is an incredibly moving point in his life, and he stays on his face. It's the Lord who sends his angel to touch him in the mouth and says, behold, this has touched your lips, your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for. And then he hears God who says, whom shall I send? Who will go for us? And of course, this verse has been used to send missionaries for centuries, it seems. He says, here I am, send me. And I hope that is your heart today. It is a heart of response to who God is and what he has done for us. The big idea, it is impossible to truly encounter God and remain the same. That's the gist of the Christian walk. If you have met Jesus, then I believe and I hope that you are not just have changed, but you are changing. And in what ways are you changing? Love you guys, and I'm praying that God will continue to show you his holiness.